Hello everyone, Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. It is Tuesday. I hope the week is going well, wherever you're watching or listening to this around the world. Now, I've been saying for the last couple of days, I am going to do this show today, and I've had to keep pushing it back because of obviously the Leandro Trossard events yesterday. But I want to spend today's show, certainly the first part of today's show anyway, talking about Raheem Sterling, who I've not really spoken about since that dramatic deadline day move to Arsenal last Friday. So I want to give my thoughts on that sign-in. We'll look at the window as a whole now that the dust has settled from it, give my judgment on that, react to somewhat what you have been saying about the window. We also will talk about Leandro Trossard, Mikel Merino as well. Obviously, I did do a live show last night, giving a little bit of an update on the Leandro Trossard story that we spoke about yesterday with that bid arriving from Al Attihad. But if you didn't catch that show, I will run through a little bit more about what I said in the latter part of today's show. Right, let's start, shall we? And look, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see the picture there at the Shoba Realty Centre, taken on late on Friday evening, of Edu and Raheem Sterling. Raheem Sterling with his Arsenal contract, a picture I don't think any of us were expecting to see when the window did start. And Edu actually admitted when talking to the club media after the signing of Raheem Sterling, he was not a player they were targeting at the start of the window, something we all absolutely knew was the case. But market opportunity arose. Arsenal got through to the end of the window, hadn't been able to secure their top attacking talents in the window, and the opportunity that was there to bring in a very experienced player in Raheem Sterling, who obviously had his own situation at Chelsea, which meant that he was available, and Arsenal took it. So initial thoughts from me on it. Obviously, we're not seeing Raheem Sterling yet. We haven't seen what he's going to deliver. Hopefully, he's going to deliver big things during the year he is here. But until then, my initial judgment on it is I think it's a pretty good deal. I don't think you can really complain about it from Arsenal's point of view. They've got a player who, is still a very good player. He's not 30 yet. Played quite a lot of football last season for Chelsea. To be fair, his numbers weren't bad. And Arsenal got him basically just for his wages. They paid no loan fee. There's no obligation, no buy clause inserted in the deal. And they're paying a fraction of his wages. Chelsea are still paying a huge chunk of his wages for him to spend the year at Arsenal. So you look at it like that and you think it can't really be a bad deal. They're not committed to anything. They haven't had to pay anything up front. And they've got a decent player who certainly improves them. When you look at the squad, you look at who he's replacing, you say probably Reece Nelson in that squad. Is Raheem Sterling an upgrade on Reece Nelson? Yes, 100%. As much as I love Reece, I don't think you can argue that Raheem is not an upgrade on him. So from that point of view, I think it's a really good deal. Look, Arsenal it was either Sterling or nothing, really, because we know that look, ideally they would have signed Nico Williams this summer. We know he was a player they absolutely loved, but it became very, very apparent as the window wore on that he was going to be staying in Spain for another season with Bilbao. So you had to reassess and look and go elsewhere. And Sterling was available. Kingsley Coman, we know, was sort of floated around towards the end of the window. His agent was out there sort of seeing if he could get a deal and getting him away from Bayern Munich. Wasn't really anything. Nothing really came to it when it was from an Arsenal point of view. He ended up staying at Munich, but Sterling was there. Sterling wanted Arsenal, which was a big thing as well. We've got that relationship between Arteta and Sterling, which, who knows, might be a really, really good thing. Sterling basically played the best football of his career outside of that unbelievable spell at Liverpool. His best time at Manchester City was when he was working one-on-one with Mikel Arteta, and he credits him hugely with the success he had at Manchester City and the improvement in terms of the output and the numbers he produced during his times at City. So you've got that good working relationship there. I think when you look at how Arsenal and Raheem Sterling play in this system under Mikel Arteta, there are signs that it could be a big success. We know Arsenal love to get in down the right-hand side. They love to get to the byline, cut the balls back. And look, we've seen during his time at Manchester City and latterly with Chelsea as well that he loves arriving at the back post to be able to turn in those opportunities. So that should be a threat that can do pretty well for Arsenal. So yeah, my thoughts on it, as much as it's not one of those ones that sort of blows you away and you're really excited about it, when you actually look at the deal, you look at how it was done, you look at what Arsenal are paying, you look at his strengths, you look at Arsenal's strengths, and it feels like a good one-season deal for me, I have to say. And look, again, we'll have to wait and see what Sterling does when he is at Arsenal. But before he's kicked a ball, I think it's a pretty good deal. I thought Eddie was very sort of forthright and honest when he came out and said that he wasn't what we were, started the window going from. But sometimes you do just have to react to market opportunities. We've spoken about that at times during the window itself. When opportunities arise, sometimes you have to take them. And it was, as I said earlier, it was kind of a case of it was going to be Sterling or nothing, and or Sterling and keep Reece Nelson. So yeah, no, I'm quite happy with the deal. I have to say, and yeah, hopefully hopefully Sterling can just be a bit re-energized by it. He's had a bad time at Chelsea. He's probably going to have to be de-Chelsea'd, kind of like Kai Havertz was. Took a couple of months to sort of suck the Chelsea out of him when it was Kai Havertz, and he might have to be done for Raheem Sterling. Get him back into Arsenal's way of thinking, just get his head right, because I bet his head's been an absolute mess for a while, given the sort of mess that it is at Chelsea. And so that you might need to have a little bit of time for him to adjust to things, but you would hope the fact he's staying in London, he's a London lad, that that it's going to ease his transition a little bit as well, which will be a good thing for Arsenal. I mean, looking at the squad as a whole now, when you look at how Arsenal are considering where they were when they went into the window, they've sold the players that they wanted to sell, aside from Reece, who's obviously gone out on loan to Fulham, but they sold Emil, who, reluctantly, they felt the time was right to sell. And again, I agree with that. They got a very good deal for Emil, 35 million. You sell Eddie, for around the sort of 30 million pound mark to Crystal Palace all in, and you sold Aaron Ramsdale, which is something I didn't think they were going to be able to do, I have to say. Money wise for Ramsdale, you'd rather they would have got more, but I don't think they can really complain, because let's face it, Mikel Arteta and the decision to bring in David Raya just tanked Aaron Ramsdale's value. As soon as you did that, it was going to be very hard to get what it probably would have been worth had you sold him when he was actually in the team and playing regular football. So I think selling wise, they've done a decent job in terms of getting the players out that they wanted to. They've added some really good players. I think Calafiori is going to be an excellent addition. I'm very, very hopeful that Merino is going to be an excellent addition. And I think Raheem Sterling, as I just said, could well be an excellent addition as well. So they've improved in defence, midfield and attack, or they've strengthened, in defence, midfield and attack. I still do feel they're one like that. When we're looking at the squad here, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see the squads. I think defensively, they're fairly well stacked. And I think they're really quality defenders as well. When you go through that list, we've got to include Kieran Tierney in this as well at the moment. You've got Saliba, Tierney, White, Gabriel, Timber, Kivior, Zinchenko, Tomiyasu, Calafiori. That is a very good defensive lineup. Very, very strong. Midfield there, you've got listed Partey, Odegaard, Jorginho, Merino, Havertz and Rice. So they still have Havertz listed as a midfielder there, which is, you could probably swap that out and put it in attack, put him alongside the forwards. I've seen some people say maybe we're one short in midfield. I think they're probably okay midfield-wise, I have to say, especially when you've got someone like Zinchenko in the defence who you can certainly add to the midfield list. I think that's pretty decent. And also you've got, obviously, some of the youngsters who aren't included in that first-team squad picture. So you can add Ethan Nwaneri to that list. You can add Miles Lewis-Skelly to that list as well, just to strengthen things a little bit more. And then in the forwards, Saka, Jesus, Martinelli, Trossard, Sterling. Again, you obviously could move Havertz into that. So it's a good squad. It's a trimmed squad. I think they're going to need a little bit of luck with injuries. I still feel they're one short in a sort of midfield stroke attack type position. I don't know. It's the same like Odegaard. I could almost put in as a forward because of how he plays and where he plays, and that's the sort of position I am a little bit concerned that they're one light on. If something happens to Odegaard, we saw he got a really bad knock at the weekend against Brighton, and immediately you start to get a little bit worried by that. If something happens to Odegaard, given that Vieira and Emil Smith-Rowe have been allowed to go in the same window, maybe it's a bit of a risk. So I would have liked to have seen one more player who you could probably, like Havertz, have listed there as a midfielder or a forward. Goalkeepers wise, I think Neto's fine addition. Obviously they wanted to sign Garcia from Espanyol, couldn't get that done, weren't willing to pay the sort of money that Espanyol wanted for him. Neto was the sort of goalkeeper I was calling for, to be honest. I was like, well, why are you bothering spending all the money you get on Aaron Ramsdale on Juan Garcia? I thought Neto was a better option as a number two. You don't have to spend that much money. I think it's impossible to look at that, though, and not think that Arsenal are now weaker in terms of the goalkeepers. When you had Raya and Ramsdale there, that was a very, very strong goalkeeping department. I think it was untenable to have it for a long, long time because we know that the other goalkeeper wants to play. So I think you had to accept that probably the goalkeeping department was going to be a little bit weaker come the end of the window. And I think it is, but I do think Neto's a perfectly fine addition as a number 2. And then you're going to have probably Tommy Setford as the number 3 there. So it's been an okay window. It's not been a window that is finished that I'm being blown away and think Arsenal are absolute. The squad is brilliant. It's so well, perfectly balanced and everything like that. But I don't think it's bad. I think the late addition of Sterling has certainly improved my feeling towards the window because I do think it's going to be a good signing and it's going to strengthen Arsenal. He can play on the left, he can play on the right, he can play as a 9 if you wanted to as well. Not that I would want him to play as a 9, but he can operate there. So I think that's changed my thinking about the window a little bit. I think before Sterling, I was looking at it thinking, if they don't sign a forward here, an attacking player, this is going to be a 4 or 5 out of 10 window here because they've left themselves very, very short. I now think they're probably just about 1 short and they're going to need some luck with injuries, but I still think they've got a good squad. And I think they've added some good strength in every position in terms of defence, midfield and forward as well. So I'd probably give it about a 7 out of 10 window, something like that. But again, ultimately, like I said with Sterling, it all depends on how they play. If Calafiori comes in, it's unbelievable. Merino comes in, it's unbelievable. Sterling comes in, gets himself 15 goals between now and the end of the season, another 5-10 assists. Then you'd look back on it and think it was a brilliant window. So we'll have to wait and see. But there are my thoughts on it. And now this is what some of you guys have been saying. Palanto says, long time watcher, first time commenter. Let me turn off my WhatsApp notifications so you're not going to get some noises going through the whole of this thing. I think Arsenal have just had, in my opinion, one of the best windows in the last few years. I'd rate it as an 8.5 out of 10. We moved on Deadwood, created space to develop our younglings and enhance the squad while making good profit on all of this. Our signings are shrewd, solid, and most importantly, improve us as a team. They only fell 2 points short of City. Callum, Merino, Sterling are very decent. We literally paid no transfer fee for Sterling and only paying about 100 grand a week. Honestly, bar the addition of Rice last summer, this has been one of the best windows. I tell you, we are in a very healthy position and we have the squad to push on at all fronts this season. Very impressed with Edu and his team. So there you go. There's a very positive thoughts on Arsenal's transfer window. Some more here. One from Rob says Sterling is a great bit of business by Arsenal. Firstly, the player has something to prove. Secondly, if he comes in and smashes it, then maybe we sign him permanently and sell Leo or Gabby. And then we can go for Williams next summer. If he doesn't work out, then he goes back to Chelsea and we can still go for Williams next summer. Overall, the window is a success for me. We've strengthened the defence, midfield and attack, as Raheem is an upgrade on Nelson, no doubt. Personally, I think Sterling will be a success. Yeah, it's a good point. Again, there's no commitment for Arsenal here to Sterling. So if it doesn't go well, then he just goes back and all you've done is paid a fraction of his wages for a year. There's no commitment there. So, but he is also got a point to prove. You would think if he wants to stay at the very top level, then this season needs to be a big success for Raheem Sterling. So you'd hope he's going to be really, really hungry and desperate to make an impact here. Because if he can, then who knows? He might get himself a permanent move to Arsenal, or he can still move to a very decent club come the end of the season. Andrew says, hi, Charles. I was wondering what your thoughts are on our lack of squad depth. It was necessary to loan out certain players like Vieira and Nelson. With the injury to Merino, who I feel will be out longer than what they are saying, having had shoulder surgery myself. Also, Rice suspended and potential injury to Odegaard, although the international break might fit in at the right time. But this is just 3 games in all, and all 3 were out. And also, if you factor in Jesus and Tommy, we just look a little bit short in terms of numbers, especially with also selling Smith Rowe and the amount of games we'll be playing. I feel like we'll end up last season close, but not close enough. Well, I've already given my thoughts on it. So, yeah, I agree. I feel like there may be 1 short, but that's not saying that this squad isn't good enough to really push on and win this title this season and win this Champions League. I do think it is possible. But they might need a little bit of luck with injuries. But then you look at Man City's squad, in terms of numbers and everything like that, they're going to need some luck as well because they haven't got a big squad. They haven't really improved. They haven't strengthened that much at all, Manchester City, when it comes to adding to their squad. Done 1 or 2, and that's about it. So it's not like others have sort of moved further ahead of Arsenal, I don't think. It was a strange window. One Nation says, good evening, Charles. If Raheem Sterling is a rip-roaring success at Arsenal during his loan spell, do you think they should try and extend his loan period or buy him permanently on a 2-year contract with 1-year option? Although Jesus is technically good, he's always injured and doesn't score enough goals. Martinelli hasn't shown enough consistency, so Arsenal only have Saka, Havertz and Trossard as reliable scoring players. I don't know. It's too early to say. I mean, again, it just depends how he plays. If he comes in, smashes it, plays really, really well, then he's going to give himself a chance of earning himself a permanent move. No doubt about that. And that can only be a good thing because it means he's had a really good season. So I can't really answer that right now. just have to wait and see and hope that he does have a successful season. Okay, from one attacker to another. Obviously, I did speak about this in my live show yesterday. In the morning show, I discussed the fact that Al Etihad in Saudi Arabia had come in with a bid for Leandro Trossard, and then obviously that moved on at pace yesterday. We very quickly heard that bid had been rejected. So I did an evening show talking about that. And but yeah, if you didn't see that evening show, then Arsenal made it very, very clear, I'm told, to Al Etihad and anyone else in Saudi Arabia yesterday who were trying to get a cheeky move done for Leandro Trossard before the window shut last night in Saudi Arabia. They were told very firmly he is not for sale. So he stayed at Arsenal. And as far as I'm aware, Leandro Trossard very, very happy at Arsenal, not even remotely interested in the Saudi Arabia move either. So it was a pretty non-story that was shut down pretty quickly from Arsenal. And I'm told from Leandro Trossard as well. Yes, he wants to be playing more perhaps than he is playing at the moment. Yes, we saw the frustration maybe sort of slip out a little bit in his celebration against Aston Villa, but he is happy at Arsenal. I'm absolutely told that is the case, and Arsenal are very, very happy with him, and they were very adamant when that offer came in for him ahead of the closing of the transfer window in Saudi Arabia, that it was not a non-starter from the off, and he was not going to be going anywhere no matter what the offer was, which I think is good news. You know, he's such an important player. There was just no way. It was quite a laughable bid, really. It's like, just no way, especially the fact that our window had already shut, so there was no way of replacing him. It's like, what are you doing? I mean, surely you know that is never going to be a successful offer. And yeah, Arsenal quite rightly shut it down very, very quickly. And on Mikel Merino, 6 to 8 weeks. That's the sort of the numbers that Arsenal are hoping for in terms of how long he'll be out for. And if that is the case, and these are the games that he will be missing. Spurs, obviously, we know. You've got Bolton in the League Cup. Then you've got Atalanta Champions League, City away, Leicester at home, PSG at home, and Southampton at home. If all goes to plan in his recovery and he is back after that, then maybe, because you've got the international break after the Southampton game. And then I think the first game back is on the 19th of October, that Arsenal might well have him back available for that game if all goes well. And fingers crossed that is the case, because we don't want Mikel Merino to be sidelined for much longer than that. It could have been worse. Look, yes, you want him in those games, especially there's some really tricky games there, of course. But the fact there are 2 international breaks means that, you know, there's only 4 Premier League games technically that he might miss if he does come back on time and on schedule. So it could have been worse. Fingers crossed he does come back on schedule, though. Okay, this is what we were talking about yesterday as well in terms of what Arsenal might do. And I'm sure this is going to be a big talking point as we head towards the North London derby in just under a couple of weeks' time. What are Arsenal going to do now that Declan Rice is suspended and that Merino is injured, of course, for that game? I was talking yesterday about, I probably right now, if you're going to say to me, what would the starting 11 be? I think Havertz ends up dropping back into the midfield, and then you play potentially Trossard as the false 9 with Martinelli and Saka out wide. But you guys have been getting in touch and giving me your thoughts on it. Matt says, call me crazy, but I think Sterling starts the North London derby with Trossard as 9 and Havertz at left 8. I think there's enough time to get it up to speed, and think someone I'd trust to rise to the occasion. I presume you mean playing him on the left-hand side, then Martinelli on the bench. You'd have Saka on the right. Mr. Goon at DV says, I, Charles, for the Spurs game, I'd play Sterling up front and drop Havertz into midfield with Spurs' high line. We could use Sterling, Saka and Martinelli speed to get behind their defence and punish them. What do you think? Potentially, I'd rather Sterling play out wide than up front, though. I'd much rather, if you're going to do something like that, I think Trossard as the 9 for me, player position I think he plays really, really well in. Paul says, Jorginho into midfield for Spurs. No brainer to me. Stepped up in big games like that before for us and controlled the midfield. Yeah, the thing with that is I'd be a bit worried having Jorginho and Partey in the midfield together. I like, you know, I have no issue with Jorginho playing, but if he was going to play, he would be playing instead of Partey for me. I think if you've got Partey as a holding player and then you've got Jorginho playing slightly ahead in the Declan Rice position, mobility wise, that would worry me against a Spurs side who we know, you know, they've got quite a bit of movement in that team, and you know, the way you hurt Spurs is getting in behind them because of the space that they leave. But if they've got good energy, good running power, and I'd be a little bit worried, I think, if you had Jorginho and Partey in the same midfield. For me, Easy Dean says Trossard in midfield and play Sterling out wide. So Havertz staying up front for you. And Jez Mundo, Mr. Fall says, hi, Charles. North London derby is tricky now, but I have faith, especially as the defence is so solid. Why is it we seem to take ages to play new signings or slowly bring them in? Other clubs play them straight away, but we seem to have this policy where we have to wait. Sterling against Spurs would be fine. He's a Premier League player, so why not Jorginho, Partey, Odegaard, midfield, and Saka, Trossard, wings, Havertz with Sterling and Martinelli for impact. This is a good team that can beat that lot, I reckon. I mean, I think Sterling will definitely play against Spurs. I think he will be eased in, but he'll definitely play against Spurs. I think he'll be on the bench though for me. And I'd be having Trossard as 9, Martinelli on the left, Saka on the right, Havertz in midfield with Odegaard and Thomas Partey. Right, that's it from me, everyone. Thank you very much for your time. As always, I do appreciate it. I'll be back tomorrow to do it all over again. Anything you want me to discuss in that show, get down into the comments, leave your comment, your opinion, anything like that, and I'll pull some of them together as always and get them included in the show. Until then, have a fantastic day, everyone. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.